Hello, viewers. Welcome to another Cool Time with Blessed. And as promised, we'll be looking at the Active Directory attacks, where we'll be doing some basic enumeration and exploiting default configuration, as well as other faulty security configuration in Active Directory domain. So today, the emulation will be using Windows Server 2008 configured with the domain and everything all set as our targets. We cannot hook up other computers to the domain at the moment, although we have other computers hooked. But the target for today is that, and then the coverage for today will be like I told you, this is a continuous. It will be a continuous recording where we'll be showcasing maybe every week. We'll be looking at a couple of things. So for this week, we'll be looking at enumerating the AD and to be able to add computer accounts to the domain, exploit default password policy, then also maybe do some exploiting some other misconfigurations to do stuff like cable roasting, service principal name, then constrained or unconstrained delegation, as well as ASP rep, which is pretty much a cool one that I would love to showcase. That is possible because of the default configuration, which more or less will disable activate no Kerberos pre-authentication. Hence, we can exploit that to do some ASP rep. All right, so enough for this chitty chatting. Let's get into the meat of today, which will be the hands-on stuff. Now, I've designed a workflow which we'll be working with. I'm just going to show that to you in my Xmind, so you see what it looks like. So this is what it looks like. We will be taking this first two today. That's this part, as well as this part. So we add in computer accounts. Basically, this shows how if you pretty much want to have this, you can reach me up. I'll be glad to share this with you as well. As usual, I love to design this to give me that systemic approach to doing what I will be doing. So today we'll do this, add computer accounts. Then we'll also use the password policy. Then maybe the next recording we'll be looking at some service principal names as cable roasting and also ASP rep, unconstrained and constrained delegation, as well as dumping NTLM hashes and attempting authentication. So let's get started with today's objectives, which will be the first two on our tree. All right. Also, everything we'll be doing will be from a Ubuntu machine. Now, all you need is just a computer connected to the same network where the Active Directory server sits on, and that's just what you need to do everything which you're doing today. So as you can see, I've got that Windows server over here, and I can see it's connected to the same network. But I am actually pretty much configured this network connection the hard way. Maybe I can show you that more like manual configuration. So I'm not, the server obviously did not get IP via DHCP. I've done that manually. You can see my configuration here. Great. It also acts as a DNS server. So if I probably try to ping that server, we should be able to reach the server. Okay, great, because we are on the same network. Now, the first set of things we should be doing, we'll be using crack map exec to enumerate the entire network and find out the possible target. So we'll just run the crack map exec, then we'll pass a SMB. Obviously, that's what we're going for. Now, a good way to tell exactly how this makes much sense, in our previous video, we've already exploited this server. We've dumped the hashes, so we've been able to crack one of the hash. We exploited it using a vulnerability in SMB. There are quite a ton of other vulnerabilities on that server, as I have built it to reflect my testing. So I will be using the credentials which I've been able to crack to do most of the attacks today. So just keep that 192.168.10.0/24. That's the network. So let's go after the entire network. Let's see if we can find possible targets with SMB, which will probably be going after already. Great, we can find that Windows server, and that's the 150 over there. We can see the domain. The domain is configured. We can see as sign-in is true. That's actually good, but SMB version 1 also is true. Oh, that's not very good. Okay, so I already found my targets. If I have other servers hooked up on this network, I'll be seeing them if they have SMB configured on them, obviously. But for now, it's just that one. So the next thing which we're going to do is going to try and use crack map exec to maybe authenticate with the domain using the credentials we have and see if we can maybe list out a couple of other phone stuff. So we'll run crack map exec. Then this time around, we'll still pass the SMB. We'll pass that. I think I should just use the up arrow. Then we'll pass the credential we have. We have now this can work with any credential. It doesn't have to be administrator. I must actually mention that now so you understand. It doesn't have to be administrator's credential. Any authenticated user to the domain is pretty much fine. But at the moment, I have admin credentials, so I just want to play with that. You can see it's actually a strong password that is being used by the admin, which is also fair enough anyways, although it's a name, so obviously it can be cracked easily. So we'll pass the domain name, which is a cptc. So I had configured this domain to reflect my organization, so we can see cptsecure.org. So wait a bit and see what we're able to dump from this. Now we can see this seemed like a good thing, or it is a good thing to say, because you can see that pawn, which means obviously we can own this domain. Obviously we're using admin credential, so I guess that's why. But if we had any other credential, I'll show you, just in case you're not able to own the domain. We can still use one of the InPacket module to add a computer account. So we're going to add a computer account to this domain. Now, like I've shown you from the slide, we are adding computer accounts. If you don't know what computer accounts are, it's actually just like another account with a dollar sign in front of it. So you will see me explaining that here. Basically, why we're able to do some of the things we're doing, it's any authenticated user, like I told you, any authenticated account can add up to 10 computers to the domain, and that's by default what you see in AD environment by default, unless it's been reconfigured to reflect the company's internal security policy. But you find this most times. I've actually seen this most times. I have to be very clear with you at this point. Now, why does this happen? One is the MSDS machine account quota attributes, which means there is a quota attributed to each account that they can add 10 different computers. Now that number counts down from 10 all the way to 0, depending each time the user adds an account. Also, second reason which we'll be looking at today is also the possibility of adding workstation, the add workstation permission, which is also configured by default as part of the default domain controller policy, which allows all authenticated user to perform action. Now that's also pretty dangerous. Most times you have to go in security folks and get that disabled, or probably use group policy to manage it from that perspective. And also I have a little note here which is critical for you to understand what we're doing today. Most SIM solutions usually miss computer accounts, so they look out for user accounts carrying out specific actions, but they don't pay attention to computer accounts. So what we'll be mimicking today is basically create a computer account, then use that account to carry out our nefarious activity on this Active Directory domain. So the computer accounts by default membership are domain computers and also authenticated users. So most times you find them being domain computer group. Most times that has been disabled, but the most part of it you'll find that actually. Also, domain computer group may be a member of local admin group, which is usually something I see transfer of rights of privilege if the principle of least privilege has not been built around that environment. And for us, that would be a low-hanging fruit for privilege escalation actually. Then also, computer account has full access to change attributes like even SAM account name. That's pretty much bad. Now we can use that privilege to reflect the computer account to look like a real account name, just so we can use that to carry out nefarious activities as well. And also, computer accounts is used as part of unconstrained. When we'll be talking about constrained and unconstrained delegation attack, we'll see how we can use computer accounts more or less to gain access or to own other domains. Then also they can run computer accounts can run their own SPNs and add additional DNS hostname. Pretty much bad. But we'll see all that, and these are the list of tools which we'll be using today: crack map exec, InPacket, and also MSF. So we have done the first part of the recording. Let's quickly jump into the second part, which is to start doing the crack Mac exec, sorry, the in packets path. So my Ubuntu box over here, just to show a little bit of demo. Okay, we think we've done this already. I'm going to clear the screen. If I look in here, we can see I'm in the in packet example. So I've got all these sets of modules which we'll be working with today. Most part of it we'll be using those recordings, but for today we'll only be working with maybe add computer accounts. Then also we'll be using probably the get user ID module, hopefully, if because I don't want this video to go too long. So let's start with the first one. I'll clear the screen. So what we'll do basically, since we're in this folder, we'll run this Python 3, I think. Then we'll add a computer account. We're adding computer account. The domain controller IP is 192.168.10.150. We already have that. Then the domain name, I think the domain name is cptsecure.org. Then we're passing the username which you have. So like I did say, this can work with any username. Trust me, any authenticated user in the domain. Once the user is authenticated, we'll pass the password. Then at this point, we want to add a computer account. So we'll pass the computer name. Then the computer account name, I'm just going to add Benjamin, who cares? Plus the dollar. So the dollar sign had to be in front of it, remember. That's what makes it a computer name. Then we'll pass the computer password. I'll give it a password of keyboard. Who cares? Let's see if this is going to run. Obviously, we can see that successfully added machine account Benjamin with password keyboard. Now, we will try to use this account again to run the crack map exec, which we did initially. This time around, I'm going to use the account that I've just created and see if it can carry out the activity. So the account is, I think the account is Benjamin. What is it? Okay, the account name is okay, Benjamin dollar. Then the account password is just keyboard, so I don't need to wrap that up. All right, let's see if we can use this account we just created to carry out the same crack map exec activity. See if it will be able to own, if it can, this account can still own the domain. So we'll wait for this to return. Okay, now we can see this account is able to list but cannot own, so we're not seeing the pawn attribute attached to this, which is what we want to quickly maybe try and see if we can do something about that. So what we'll do is we'll try and list out all the accounts in the domain, and let's see if this account, computer accounts, can actually carry out the same nefarious activity. So I'm going to clear the screen, sorry, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run the same Python 3, the same in packets, but this time around we've already added a computer account. We can list using the computer account we've created. How about we use the in packet module this time around? Let's try the get ad users.py. Let's see if that's going to work. Sorry, I think it's get ad, yeah, that's it, users.py. We'll run this using the accounts which we have just created. So the domain name is cptsecure.org. Then we'll pass the account details or credential which we have, and that's Benjamin $, oh sorry, my bad, $. Then we'll pass the password which we have as keyboard. Then the DC IP is 192.168.10.150. I think this should all be good. We'll pass the all flag. Let's list all the that probably I've made a mistake somewhere. I'm gonna quickly check that up. So we're running that cptsecure.org. The username is Benjamin. I think that looks pretty good to me. Then the DC IP is also correct all. So what's happened? cptsecure.org. Let me see if I can wrap this up. Probably it's showing that error because of this. Run that again. Okay, there seems to be an error. I'm going to have to figure this out. Okay, so I think I figured out my issue. I had a problem because I was using the backslash, not the I was using this. Sorry, it should be this. So let's run this. Now we can see that with our computer account, we're able to dump all the users in the domain. So pretty smart thing for us to do would be to okay, front door. I created this one when I was probably playing some catch me if you can, kind of like with that domain. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run the same command and probably pipe the output to save it locally. So I'm going to have to save that somewhere else. Let me clear the screen. So I'm going to run the same command and I'm going to maybe pass the outputs. Let me pipe it out to save it as a, what can I save this as? I think I can save this as a, first let me cut. I want only the usernames. I don't want everything, so I'm going to have to cut out a part of it. So I'll cut -d, cut this first part, then I'll, the field is 1. I think that command should be pretty much fine. Then let's pass the output to save it in a root directory. I think that's okay. We'll call it user names.txt. Okay, pretty much okay. Let's see if that's gonna run fine. If that runs fine, then we will let me just spin up a new, sorry, I guess I over pushed it. Okay, I'm gonna close this and open up another one. Okay, that ran pretty smooth. I do not want to change. Okay, this is okay. Wrong password. Okay, let's change into roots. We should have the username.txt. I can cut the content of user.txt. You can see we've got all the credentials clean. So a smooth thing for us to do at this point would be to maybe try attempt a password spray, since I know one password for the administrator. Let's go use MSF console to do some magic and see if this is going to work. I'm going to run MSF console here, and I'll continue when this is completely started. Okay, so just to save us some time, I've done a bit of this in the background. So I started MSF console. I'm using the auxiliary scanner module, SMB login, I set the remote host, then I set the user file which we just collected. I'm attempting a password spray. So I'm at the second phase of using the password policy. Then also I'm setting the password to spray, use to spray, then as well as the domain. So I'm going to run this. And this is going to attempt that. Oh, I already found one. Okay, that's good. We can see, okay, that's the administrator's accounts. That password worked against administrator's account. Obviously it's going to work because that's the one we had stolen from the start. Let's also spray against other accounts. And we can see how pretty easy it is for me, because there is no default, there's no account login, logout, sorry, probably, which I should have checked to show you guys. It has not been configured on the domain. Account lockout is not being configured, so I'm taking advantage of that to actually spray this. I could try multiple times coming from the same user until I'm able to spray about 3,000 users in this domain. Okay, I'm going to pause this one. When it's done, I'll come back and look at if I can find any other user who have the same password in the domain. Okay, so we've spread against I think about 2,516 accounts. All right, cool. It appears that the admin password is not found, repeated, or used. We could try this against any other common password, or we could pass a pass file and probably try to see if we can find possible passwords for other accounts in the domain. We can grab that and go use that to authenticate, basically, or play around, do all the fun stuff. Just to show you guys how easy it is to take a stolen credential and start enumerating the domain. This will be the first phase. Now after this, we'll start looking at the other phase, which will be us trying to do the kebab roasting, which will be pretty cool anyway, since we already have a machine account. We'll be using that to play every technique which will be showing from this, or showcasing from this moment onward. Well, I'll be stopping this video here. I don't want it to go beyond 20 minutes. Thanks for your time, and I'll see you in the next recording. Have a great day and a great week as well. Yeah, bye bye.